So we looked at how we're seen as a vibrantly creative people and part of our musical output. And that feeds back as well. When people see music is from an Irish person, that Irishness having a brand of kind of creativity, a poetic nature, a soulfulness, that carries back over to the music again. This international reputation we have, creativity, musicality, and the crack, this is positive things for a musician's brand. And plus, there's 400 million people around the world who are possible audience for something that has Irish flavour to it. Automatically, they'll be drawn to it once they know it has an Irish aspect to it. Remember Riverdance, biggest selling video in the UK ever. Just to give you an idea of the size of the interest in music in Ireland, Coachella, that's an internationally renowned festival. 250,000 attended. But back in 2012, the Fleadh Cheoil had 430,000 people turn up at it. That's bigger than Glastonbury, Coachella together. Some of those people were probably tourists, but you can bet that a fair chunk of them were Irish. And the number of tourists, they came to Ireland for the music. Some other information that came out of the 2002 report was it was worth half of 1% of GDP, 0.5%. Now, GDP is the amount of money that the country earns in a year. How much money does the country as a whole bring in? So the music industry back in 2002 was worth half of 1%. Now that's a lot. More than the newspaper and the magazine publishing industries. Now, it's after shrinking to 25% by 2012. And think about that figure. So it's after shrinking by a half. But global recorded music sales had also halved by 2012. So it's easy to see that's from file sharing. The 2012 IMRO report reckoned that the core music industry was worth 291 million. We spent about 88 million, and the music supply chain was worth about 93 million in wages for shops, venues, delivery, and so on. It supports 9,030 people directly and 2,480 people indirectly. And I suspect there's a bigger number of people who are supported by music than that, just because of the nature of the music industry in Ireland is people don't often declare their income from music. A lot of it is cash in hand because it's usually a trickle of income for people. Sometimes some trickles are bigger than others. Now, back in 2002, Irish artists made up about a quarter of the domestic market. In other words, of all the music we bought, about a quarter of it was Irish. Now, that might seem okay. Music is a global product at this stage. So 25% of the music we bought was Irish artists. That doesn't seem too bad in that context. Would it be great if it was a higher percentage? Certainly, but that doesn't suit record companies. They want to have one Rihanna and sell her music globally. They're not interested in having a high profile artist in every area, because then you have to run an advertising campaign for all of those artists individually. And all the marketing, all the people you'd have to deal with for that. It makes much more sense for the global music industry, the global record industry, to have the same artists and to sell them everywhere. It's just like McDonald's. It's the one restaurant around the world. They don't have an Irish brand, an English brand, and so on, except for some minor tweaks. So that's what the companies are interested in doing. They're not necessarily interested in picking up Irish artists and selling them to the Irish market, because, then we'd see people, or we'd be listening to music that actually reflected our day to day life a bit closer. They're not interested in that, but they are interested in getting Irish artists and selling them worldwide due to the worldwide goodwill towards Irish people. So the demographics of the Republic of Ireland in 2016, we numbered 4,757,000 plus a couple more. So all of the country aren't necessarily buying music all the time, or they're not necessarily going to gigs either. Take the chunk of the population that do go to gigs and then think about a genre that you like. Now, out of all of the people who listen to music, what percentage of them listen to that genre? Let's say it's rock music. You'll be doing pretty good. Rock gigs are probably well supported. But as soon as you move down into more niche genres like jazz or reggae or even electronic music, it can be harder to find the numbers to support gigs in smaller cities. Dublin mightn't be so hard, but outside of Dublin and Cork, it gets tricky. Also, then, you can't tour for very long because there's only so many places that you can go gigging in Ireland. We're a small country with a small population. We're an underpopulated small country that is an island. So it's not like you can get in your van and drive to the mainland. In the UK, you have a much bigger population. What's London? 20 million people. So if you were to pick a very outside genre, let's say you're into black metal, very niche black metal. So if you were to throw a black metal gig on in Waterford, you might get 7 people. Now, if you were to throw a black metal gig on in London and advertise it well, you could sell out. It's just simple common sense. There's more likely to be a couple of hundred black metal fans in London than there is in Waterford. And cover that for any genre. So it's just easier to get support for whatever you want to do in places with bigger populations. It's easier to go on tour for longer in countries with more cities, more university towns, and just more places. So you could just keep going. Now, move past the UK and start thinking about mainland Europe, and you can just drive to other countries. So your tour could be all year round if that was the way you wanted to do it. But the homeland market in Ireland is tough. And the longer you're around, the longer you're going to get to see fantastic bands, Irish bands, that just break up because they just can't keep going anymore. Recent examples, well, I'm not sure if you recognise this guy. He's on RTE2, but he was a very nice man, and we met him. He gave a talk to us in the college about his band Rye7, the year that they actually had an Irish number one. So they did quite well in Ireland. I still hear his music on the radio quite often. But it just didn't really translate abroad. They had a couple of very big moments, but it just hasn't seemed to translate into anything long-term for him. So he's finding other jobs in the media to support himself. Another example would be Brezzy, of course, started off in a band called is it the Blizzards? I'm not sure. And he had number ones in Ireland, but number ones in Ireland aren't going to buy you a house. They're not even going to give you a year's worth of wages. Far from it. Maybe if everyone bought your album, you might be in a better situation. But there's just not enough of a market. So you can't really make a living in the long run based on Irish success alone. Unless you've figured out a format that you can play in every city in Ireland, maybe 4 times a year and maybe sell 2 or 3 albums a year, it's just not going to be enough money to live on. You're going to have to be doing other things in music or outside of music. Or you're going to have to take the fact that you can make yourself a success in Ireland and show that to people in the UK. Because if it works in Ireland, there's no reason why it shouldn't work in the UK and elsewhere. One of the other findings of the report in 2002 was the fact that it's not considered to be a true industry must also be addressed in order to gain access to financial and support services. They're not considered to be a true industry. What do they mean by that? Well, I doubt any of you ever went to a career guidance meeting and someone said to you, well, did you consider to be a musician? It's not seen as a proper job. The people who have made it, people who are successful at it, yes, they're seen to be having a proper job. Or is it seen as a proper job, or is it more like they're cut from a different cloth? They're this celebrity class. But it's not seen as a career in Ireland. It's seen as a hobby. This could be said about other countries as well. But where we fall down in Ireland is we don't receive government support for rock or dance music, or popular music doesn't get government support. And as we'll see quite soon, other more culturally respected forms of music like classical music, choral music, does receive quite significant government support. So we're going to have a look at why that is. Canada has a great support system in place for its native musicians, funded by the government. Just reading from their page, Factor's programs provide financial support to Canadian recording artists, labels, songwriters, publishers, event producers and distributors. Whether an artist is looking to record a demo or a full-length sound recording, market an existing album, or go on tour at home or internationally, there's funding available. Factor is committed to reflecting the diversity of Canadian population in its programs and operations. We're committed to ensuring universal access to all funds and services, including all musical expressions and talent. We will also in our work encourage these values of diversity and inclusiveness within the broader Canadian music sector. So they'll help you record albums, they'll help you fund videos, they'll help promote existing albums you have, they'll fund tours in the home country, and they'll fund international tours. And we're talking millions of Canadian dollars a year. So in 2014 they had funding of a total of $20 million. The UK also makes funding available to artists. And remember, this isn't charity, this isn't giving away money. Think about how good it is for the public image of a country to have its music go around worldwide. Think about the tourist industry. Think about even just the value of the music industry. I'm going to show you a video made by the Irish Film School about the Music Board of Ireland, which was an initiative established to help Irish musicians, kind of similar to the way Factor helps Canadian musicians. And it was disbanded shortly after it was established. And this video aims to look at why this happened. And it uncovers some of the problems and disadvantages of the Irish music industry in the process.
In May 2001, the Irish government joined with IBEC in a bid to bring the Irish music industry to its full potential. They wanted to improve infrastructure, upgrade facilities and promote music from Ireland both nationally and internationally. They created the Music Board of Ireland. In 2004, the Music Board disbanded. During its 3 years in operation, it did not achieve any of its objectives.
The idea of it was great. The idea that a board should overlook the infrastructural build of an industry, I thought was fantastic.
I think the idea of a music board is excellent. I think we really need somebody, some organisation to look at music on a national level and to, on the broadest possible sense.
John O'Donoghue, the Minister of Arts, Sports and Tourism, made the decision to discontinue the music board.
We got together like through friends. There's 3 brothers in the band, like myself, Daniel, and another brother.
One thing I've always found is that if we ever played in London or England and stuff like that, like art and music over there is encouraged a lot more so in Europe as well. It has that extra little bit of push to support like creativity and stuff like that. It doesn't really seem to be that way over here. If you want to do something, you have to do it yourself. Especially in Dublin, like no one's going to help you. You know what I mean?
There's definitely a complete lack of understanding of what it's like to, be a musician.
Initially, there's not a whole lot of help out there really, so you kind of have to, I guess, take the initiative and do as much as you can yourself. Really.
Like, why isn't there something that's set up that, stops people making the first 100 easy mistakes that everyone makes? Why isn't there someone like that? Very easy to do that, and then people will be able to get to a better level. If we ran an exhibition of our artwork or something, we could get a grant for that. But we couldn't get it to run a gig or to run an album launch.
I think this is bringing that musician style that France have.
They should help in the arts, as in, if somebody wants to go to New York to record and they're in a band that haven't got a record deal or whatever, they should be able to get grants. As in, if somebody is studying to be a scientist, they get a grant to buy, test tubes or whatever. It's the same thing. That's something that the government just doesn't pick up on. They don't see that art or being a musician is just as important as being a doctor or. Do you know what I mean?
My work as a musician is as important to society as a doctor in a hospital is, and that goes for all the musicians. We're as important to the fabric of society as anybody is.
There are as many kids with guitars as there are with hurleys or, whatever. So, and we're investing in sport and we're investing in, I'd love the Irish popular music industry to have as much money as the GAA have. That'd be great.
The government needs to do for us what they do for artists. It seems that the Arts Council are just out for the painters and that type of artists, but there needs to be something there for the musicians as well.
There's so much talent in this country that it's a huge export just waiting to be, oiled,
There will be a knockback in the whole tourism industry and all the rest of it as well. There's a lot of other ways we'll kick back.
There's a lot of money to be made from Irish bands. There's really good ones out there.
Stevie Walsh demonstrates.
The country would benefit enormously from having this kind of support from a government level. It would benefit in terms of balance of payments, money coming into the country. It would benefit in terms of tourism. It would benefit in terms of cultural infrastructure.
It's not even just artistic sense and, do it because we think the bands are great. It makes economic sense to invest in people who are being creative in your country because it is not migratory. Irish musicians will always be Irish and you can't put a price on what that does for a country.
We've known kind of a few bands who've had to leave kind of Ireland and are going over to the UK. Some bands just get so frustrated that it's kind of just a last ditch thing. And obviously you're going into a far bigger pond there.
We go straight to the UK. We don't really use the Irish system. Just go over to the UK, get it set up there, and then move back. You can do the equal amount of work in the UK, and I think you get more return for the amount of effort you put.
Money could be put into
could be put into rehearsal spaces, because I mean, like, how many bands are in Dublin, you know what I mean? And they're all trying to get like rehearsal space in them when like it's booked out by 6 or 7 bands who like, you know, book it for a month, you know what I mean? Like, and so there should be other places that are allocated for bands to come and rehearse.
In Cork, they need to give us some practice rooms.
That's a new thing.
In Cork, there are no practice rooms. Absolutely nothing.
So if you want to go and rehearse in the studio, it could cost, and you know equipment, so you got to hire your equipment. So I don't know, maybe it's €70 every time you go. If the rehearsal studios are put in there, proper rehearsal studio, put in with the government, and subsidised, you know, so it does actually only cost them a tenner.
It's 50 is the basic rate. You get room with a PA, and if you're looking for backline, then it's 70. There is still a good few bands that I know, and I'd be kind of wondering where do they rehearse. Because I know there is a good few places around, but I know there's a lot of places that are really kind of gammy and the equipment is bad. And
that's actually been really annoying me for a long time. You know, there is no, places to rehearse with. Even like you were from Malahide, and there's no facility there. And how many fucking bands though?
There should be stuff for kids that want to get into music.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah.
Stuff for kids who want to get into football or whatever. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Rock music, or whatever you want to call it, different types of music, bands, whatever, the way it's perceived in relation to the rest of the arts in Ireland is very poorly. Like, it's barely even considered an art by the Arts Council, in that the Arts Council fund all these other things pretty generously, but there's absolutely nothing there for bands, you know what I mean, or kind of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, amateur music, you know what I mean. It's not even on the ladder, it's not even on the scale.
I think within media circles there's quite a general shunning of Irish acts. For example, we've no real television shows at the moment for new Irish acts. So in terms of development, we can't go out and make videos because we have nowhere to show the videos. Radio is pretty bad on supporting Irish artists. In fact, it's abysmal.
I haven't got a clue where bands are supposed to start or not start. It should be that radio is the best place. It should be that is the biggest stepping stone. And I think it has lost a lot of its power. Not because I was doing it once and I'm not doing it anymore, but because of the nature of the business. In the old days or whatever, every year for 20 years he brought in 40 or 50 bands and gave them a session, which was a serious rung up the ladder. First of all, they do about 4 songs. Secondly, and it'd all be free and they get paid for doing it. And secondly, those 4 songs would be played on national radio on the programme that I did twice in the 1 month. And it was a serious start-up. Like the first one we ever did, weirdly, was with U2, who were like hadn't got a single out at the time. But the point is, like, it was just a great facility, so it was a really good thing to do. Now they still do that. And there's going to be a bunch of sessions done this year, but now it's kind of 6 months in the year, not 12 months in the year.
The one thing a lot of bands don't have when they start out is somewhere to go for advice. Now, luckily there's places like the FMC, which is a place in Dublin. They can kind of help you out a little bit about, you know, helping you out with gigs and stuff.
We are funded by the Arts Council as a resource and services organisation. This year we received €170,000.
For sure, there's more support for classical and opera than there is for indie and rock.
After all, those who go to the National Concert Hall of a week are likely to vote, whereas those who go to Queen's of the Village are unlikely to vote. You mean that you'll not be seen as apathetical and non-political.
Well, opera is perceived as more legitimate than underground guitar music or any type of guitar music. It's funny, like how someone like John O'Donoghue, who probably grew up in the 50s and the 60s, would be completely so unaffected by the kind of cultural change that went on in those decades, that he would kind of perpetuate that politician, you know, not giving money to needed areas of the arts, you know what I mean?
John O'Donoghue is a politician. All politicians will tell you exactly what you want to hear. I'd be very interested to hear his reasons to camera why he didn't actually continue supporting the music board.
And who was on the music board?
Representatives, I don't know, no idea.
And why do you think it stopped after 3 years?
Pardon? No, stop again. Ask me that. Look, I won't do the interview at all. You're asking me questions that are involving too much statistics, alright? Sorry about that.
Why won't you give us an interview?
Because you're asking me questions that I couldn't possibly answer.
No, we'd be happy to
The reason why they didn't do anything is an interesting one. I mean, you hear all kinds of rumours as to where it is, but what it comes down to is prioritisation. And the Irish music industry, be it the rock, pop, indie, doesn't have a priority at cabinet table, doesn't have a priority at even departmental level.
The infrastructure is there, just all it needs is a little bit of support. It doesn't need another organisation that we all have to push up at the table for. It just actually needs money to come in under the organisations that are already there, and it needs investment.
A recent study found that there's two things in life people always think they should get for free, and one is the water coming out of their taps, and the second is music.
The government needs to change, full stop, never mind the industry.
One of the organisations featured in that video was First Music Contact. We're based in Dublin, so they're the prime go-to organisation for popular music acts to receive support in Ireland. Here's their video.
Are you a musician? First Music Contact is here to help you. We help artists at key stages of their careers and provide free advice and information to all musicians. Funded by the Arts Council, our philosophy is and will always be to put the artist first. If you're an artist, we can help you in a number of ways. We have free advice sheets that you can find on our website to help you with the common challenges experienced by musicians. If you'd like one-to-one advice, you can book a free consultation with First Music Contact, either in person or via Skype. In that session, we'll listen to your goals, outline options, and offer suggestions. We built an artist-first music platform called BreakingTunes.com. Breaking Tunes is a discovery engine for industry and media, both in Ireland and abroad. Here, in First Music Contact, we regularly use it ourselves when curating events. So, if you're a musician or in a band, then sign up. Once you've established yourself locally, you should apply to perform at Ireland's annual showcase for music and music technology, Hard-Working Class Heroes. Each of the 100 acts are selected by a panel of Irish and international judges. As well as a showcase slot in a Dublin venue, you get access to free advice from international music industry delegates taking part in the Hard-Working Class Heroes convention. For Irish artists making the next step and taking their live act abroad, we organise Music from Ireland. Each year, we support Irish acts, bringing them to the top music showcases in the world. Every November, the First Music Contact Tour takes place. This is an exciting 6-date tour of Ireland by 3 leading Irish acts. If you're an emerging artist or band, make sure you're on BreakingTunes.com, as we use it to discover and select one act for each night of the tour to play the opening slot. First Music Contact are passionate about helping artists at key stages of their careers. So, let us know if there is anything we can do to help you.
Now, First Music Contact are funded by the Arts Council. And with what we learned in the video from 2002 in mind, let's look at how the Arts Council divvy up. Okay, so who we funded in 2017, the most recent figures. Okay, so look, 392,000 for Chamber Choir Ireland. First Music Contact gets a third of that, 102,000. Irish Chamber Music, 916,000. The Contemporary Music Centre, 312,000. What's that about? Okay, this is the Contemporary Music Centre website. Cello and guitar, flute, cello, French horn, synthesizer and live electronics. That sounds interesting. But not what you would call popular music, rock music, hip hop. None of that stuff. That's all under the umbrella of First Music Contact. Now, there are Arts Council grants available. And to qualify for that, it's done by region. So there'll be a Waterford branch of the Arts Council. So if you wanted Arts Council funding, it would have to have some project significant. The project would have to have some Waterford significance to it. So coming back to the recommendations of the IMRO report, one of the recommendations was the need for access to finance by entrepreneurs in the music industry. Because that's what someone starting a band, starting a project is. You're essentially trying to start a small business, like we talked about at the start of the year. Access to markets, help people sell their product abroad and at home. If you're setting up a new business selling jam, you would get support, both education on how to sell jam, how to market the jam and so on. So why not the same thing for music? Intellectual property rights issues. I imagine that's protection from the exploitation of your music without you being paid for it. In places like file sharing, obviously, and YouTube and so on. Education and training, access to innovation, and clusters and collaboration. I suppose that's just putting people in touch with each other so they can help each other out. So basically creating networks. The growth potential, recognition at a government level of the growth potential and value of the music industry to the Irish economy. So if it stopped seen as being a hobby. A promotion of the viability of the music industry as a career path. Again, just think of the support that sport gets. Now, sport is great for the national psyche. It's very good for the mental health of the people involved. Well, so is music. We're all locked down with this COVID virus at the moment. We're all enjoying the arts while we're locked down. We're listening to music, we're watching TV, we're looking at content on the internet. Music is a big part of that. That deserves government support. It increases everybody's quality of life when music is fostered and promoted. And we're very good at it. We have natural advantages when it comes to music. Our government needs to recognise that and support us. Proactive targeted development by the developmental agencies and the government in conjunction with the industry itself. Continued support for a strong, viable music and creative industry base in Ireland, working hand in hand with the tech sector. So we've had huge artists in Ireland. U2, Enya, Van Morrison, Krista Berg, say, I know probably not on your usual rotation list, but they're worth 125 million records sold between them. All of that money went to the US. They're all US record labels. When the next person of this caliber comes along, shouldn't it really go to an Irish record label? Because if that Irish record label is in place, then the person after that person can be helped. Will have somewhere to go.